Hi, y'all. Today we're going to talk about the components of research and basically how to make the best decisions when we are looking at research. Okay, so the reason looking at components of research and understanding them is important is because it helps us to read complex research articles and reports and successfully use proven methods for practical use. So the first thing we want to look at is an abstract. So an abstract is a summary of our research. It's one of my favorite things in looking at research reports because what it does is allows me to basically take a snapshot or read the research without reading the entire research report. Reports can be very long, hundreds and hundreds of pages. So whenever I'm looking for a research article, an abstract is just a paragraph, and I'm able to see if it's going to be relevant to me or if it's going to support my research very quickly. And if it is relevant, I can use it and go ahead and read that research. And if it's not, I can just go ahead and search for some more articles. If you aren't really writing a research paper, abstracts can come in really handy if you want a quick summary without having to look at the methods and graphs. If you want just a quick summary of findings, abstracts are the way to go. It's the thing to read. So now we're getting into the actual research reports. Our introduction, the introduction of our research state the author's purpose and reasoning. You really want to look at the author's purpose because purpose can affect implication and findings. You want to know why the author is writing this research. What are their goals? What are they trying to do? Are they trying to sell you something? Or are they trying to get you to do something? Or is it purely scientific? You want to explicitly try to understand what the author is trying to address. The author's purpose can also help you because if you're looking at some research and you thought by the abstract, you say, "Hey, this is relevant," but you look at the author's purpose, you realize the author is going in a different direction than you. Then you know maybe this report isn't for you. You're also looking at the author's hypothesis in the introduction. Now, remember, from the scientific method, our hypothesis is an educated guess. So, what the author is going to do is he's going to say, "Hey, this is my purpose. This is what I'm trying to find. And this is what I'm thinking is going to happen based on what I know and what I have observed so far." Now, next is going to come our literature review. Now, the literature review states current research findings that has already been published. So, what the author is going to do is he's going to talk about or mention other articles of the people who have talked about this topic and the current trends in research that are already addressed. If you're a reader and you want to know more about long term implications, what other people are saying, other trends in this particular topic, you're going to find that in the literature review. Now, the author is often going to cite the people he feels or she feels that agree with them most. They're going to talk about the report's most influential references. So, if you have a long list of references and you want to see the references that the author used the most as far as driving their research, you're going to find this in the literature review. Now, methodology. A lot of times when I'm looking at research, methodology is one of the first things or the most crucial things that I look at, so to say, under a microscope because it's the technique that the research used for his or her study. Now, this part can be tedious, it can be long, but it is one of the most important because different results can create different implications. So, for example, if somebody is doing some research or they're doing an experiment with a small class, a rural class in Kansas. Of course, this method or the methods that they're going to use is might be different than the methods that somebody in New York may use. Also, just changing one little bit or changing the procedure list or something that they use in their methods of trying to obtain a result can be biased. If they change this one thing, then the results or the findings that the author finds can be totally different. So you really want to check the author, and you really want to make sure that their methodology is universal, or and if it's not universal, how it isn't universal. And just like the methodology, findings are very important. Now, the findings and the conclusion are not the same thing. Findings are the exact results of the research. So when you, as a reader, when you look at findings, it helps you make your own inferences. So if you look at the methodology and you find that the methodology works, you like the way the author uses data, or he or she, the way he or she uses certain techniques to create data, then look at their findings, and I want you as a researcher to create your own inferences. Tell me, what does this mean to you? Now, a lot of times findings mean different things to different people. So what I want you to do as a researcher is I want you to find limitations that the author may not mention. If the author uses some sort of methodology and it doesn't address some special groups, or if it doesn't if they don't take into consideration certain ethnicities or certain genders, you this is where you're going to find it really in the findings. And a lot of times the author will recognize this and write it in the findings, and that's a sure sign of a really good author. You also want to compare methodology to findings to help you find positive or negative correlations. And if you want to duplicate this research or look at this kind of research on your own, findings can come as a great help. Now, conclusions, implications, and suggestions. You're going to usually find this all up on the same, under the same subset or the same title. So, what the author does is he takes the data, the findings, and shows how you, as a reader, should interpret these findings. Now, of course, you want to look at these findings yourself and take them, the implications or the findings, and make your own implications. But if you're having trouble looking at that, what the author does is he takes these and say, well, this is what I found, and this is what this means to you as a reader. And this is a suggestion I make based upon my experiments. So you want to look at those implications and suggestions, and say, and think to yourself, can I use them? Can I use them in my research? Can I use them in my everyday life? Especially if you're reading some research to make a change in your life. Okay. Now, last but not least is your references. Now, your references is every single thing that the author used, or piece of information outside information that your author used. So, references can be great if you really like this research and you want to find more research like it, or you want to find research similar, or like the literature review, you want to find research that influenced it. Also, if your research requires a whole lot of other research, or if you're writing something and you require, um, if you're having difficulties finding research related, reference page can be handy. Now, what's most important is that you cite your references and you give credit where credit is due. So all of this can really come into handy whenever you are looking at writing a research paper or doing your own research for your own, um, for your own either science projects or paper or any type of article in which you need to reference other people.